Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today I thought I would share with you how I make personalised doormats using a doormat from Wilko, some acrylic paint and a personalised stencil made with our Cricut machine. So we're in design space here again with a nice blank canvas to start us off, and the design that I'm thinking I'm going to make is very simple. I just want to write home, but I want to use a heart for the O, and then I'm going to use just lettering for the rest of the word. So first of all, I'm going to go on to shapes, and I'm going to select the heart shape, and I'm going to pop that on the canvas. I'm not going to change any sizing just at the moment, because I'm going to do that at the end once I've got everything sorted out with my design and I'm happy with it. So I'm just going to change the colour of the heart to red, because on my mat it will be red when I do it. And then I'm going to go over to text, and I'm going to do a H. Then I'm going to put another text box, and I'm going to put an M and an E in capitals. So basically it will be like this when it's done. Okay, so this font is called Eagle Bold. It's a nice chunky looking font, and that's what I wanted to achieve with this. So first of all, I'm going to use the font size to change my size of that. So let's just press the arrow up, because I want obviously for my H and my M and my E to be the same size. So that is 138 point size. So let's do the same on this one, but because we know what it is now, we can just click in the box and delete that and type in 138, press enter, and then that's the same. So I've just lined that up there. Okay, so that's how I want it to look. So this is the mat that I'm going to be using. It is a smaller size doormat, and the reason that I've chosen the smaller size is purely because I want to be able to cut it out on one mat without having to slice the design up, and I'm hoping that I will be able to do that with this when I make the stencil. So I'm going to make my stencil about 30 centimeters or thereabouts. Of course, we do have the restriction on the Cricut machine as to how big we can make it, but I'm going to make it as big as I possibly can without slicing it. So we're looking at 30 centimeters wide by approximately, I'm thinking a couple of inches in, by about 22 centimeters in length. So let's see how big we can make it so that it fits on nicely. Alright then, I've measured the mat and I'm looking at around 30 by 22 centimeters. So I'm going to just select all by dragging again. You can always select all by coming up to this little panel up here, and that will say select all there, so we can do that as well. And then I'm going to just group everything together just to make sure that it's going to work. Okay, so let's just unlock our padlock, and we want our width to be 30, and we want our height to be 22. Okay, and I don't like the way the heart looks like that, so I'm going to ungroup. I'm going to get rid of that heart, and then I am going to put another heart in, but I'm going to stretch it there. Okay, that looks pretty nice. Right, so because we need this to be a stencil, what we need to do now is slice everything together. So let's select all again, and then we're going to weld it all together, and that will turn my heart black, which is fine because we need it to be one layer in order to allow us to slice it out. If I left all these different elements separate on the canvas and then try to slice, it won't let me because you can only slice 2 elements at the same time. So what I'm going to do now is go back into shapes here, and I'm going to click on that and grab a square, and all I'm going to do is unlock the padlock again, and then I'm going to stretch it so that it's going to cover my whole design. I'm going to now do a right click and send to back so that I can see where that is, and I want it to be a little bit bigger so it gives me good coverage for when I'm doing the painting side of it. So let's see how big we can make it without it. This is going to tell me it's too big because it's not going to fit on the mat. So let's now again select all. Actually, first of all, before we select all, let's just have a look down the bottom. We don't have the slice capability highlighted, so it's not available at the moment, and that's because we haven't selected anything to slice. So let's go up to the top and click select all, and now slice has come there and it's lit up so that we can use it. So let's click on slice. Okay, and now it's given us in our layers a slice result. So we've got here our stencil, as you can see. That's our original black home, and then this is the grey box that we've actually removed as well. So if we hide those, we've now got our home, and that is our stencil ready to use on our mat. Right, let's see how this is going to work. Okay, so it's telling me to use a large mat, which obviously I've only got the small one at the moment, but that's okay, we can work around this. As I mentioned before, I haven't actually got the large mat to use, so I'm going to trick my machine by using 2 mats, and I'm going to actually masking tape them together. So I've just got 2 light grip mats. These are quite old ones. So all I'm going to do is line them up here, and then I'm just going to get some masking tape and I'm going to tape the 2 mats together. I have done this before and it does work. Obviously this will invalidate your warranty if your machine is less than 12 months old. Mine is over 12 months old, so it has no warranty now anyway, so this won't affect me, but just be aware of that. If your machine is new, I would recommend buying a larger mat to use rather than this method, but for something like this, this will work a dream. Okay, so next we need to just go up to make it, and the message about the large mat will come back up, and we're just going to select OK, and then once that has moved on we can click continue. Now we need to choose our material setting, so I'm just going to choose regular vinyl. I'm not using anything any different, and I'm just leaving my setting on my pressure for default as well. Okay, so I've got my piece of vinyl cut now, and I'm just going to remove it from the mat. Okay. So let's just take off the bits of masking tape that I used just to help it to stick to my mat, because it wasn't a very sticky one. Those bits off. Okay, so just remember, because we're making a stencil, we need to actually remove the inners rather than the outers of the lettering. Let's grab my weeding tool. I'm just going to start taking out the letters. It's going to be a pretty quick process because they're quite big, it's not fiddly. There's the heart. I could probably have used the heart for something else, but there we go. So there is our stencil, and then I'm just going to use my metal ruler and my knife to just cut around the stencil as well. So okay, so that is our stencil. So now we need to get some transfer paper and apply this onto our mat. So I'm just going to take off that little bit as well. There we go, there is our stencil. So as usual, I'm just going to use a piece of my favourite transfer paper, and what I'm going to do with this is lie out my roll and just pull out what I think I might need, and I'm then going to pop this face down onto there, and then I'm going to cut off the piece that I need. Okay. And then I'm going to just use my roller to just give it a good press down. And then this will get out any air bubbles and stuff. And then I'm going to just cut off this spare piece of transfer paper, because I can use this again for other decals. And I will just pop this back on my roll like that, and that'll get used next time. Okay, so there is our stencil. A bit of an air bubble in there, but I don't think that will matter too much. Okay, so now we need to apply our stencil to our mat. So let's just peel this back. Because it's quite big, it's going to stick really easily to that. So that's ready now. What I'm going to do is just place it down on there, and I'm going to have a quick look at my measurements. So I'm just looking at the measurements from the edge of my mat here to the top of my letter, and that is about 8.5 centimetres, and I want it to be the same this side, so I need to move it up a little bit. Not very much though, just a teeny bit. Okay, 8, and that's 8 that side, so that's great, that is perfect. And then let's do the same from edge to edge. So we are looking at 5 on that side and about 5 on that side, so that's perfect. So what I'm going to do now is remove my transfer paper, and then I'm going to get my stencil stuck down really well. So let's just remove the transfer paper just in the usual method. Just grab a corner, use your fingers as you go in to make sure that your stencil is stuck down well. It will lift because this surface is really rough, so it's hard for the vinyl to stick to it. Okay, we just keep it in the same position as before. We will be able to move it around if we need to. Just go slowly. Because we don't want to stretch our stencil at all, so just go slowly and help the vinyl to stay in the right position whilst you're lifting it off the paper. Imagine if we'd have used a stronger tack transfer paper, it would have stuck really well, and then we're going to struggle to get it off altogether. So just going nice and slow. I'm just holding the vinyl as close to the transfer paper as I can, just to give it a little helping hand to stay in place. Gently wiggle it and it will come off as well. Helps a lot. Okay, we're going to have to straighten up once we've got it on. We will be able to reuse this piece of transfer paper as well. It's quite a big piece, so we'll be able to get a few uses out of it, even though it has been stuck to the doormat. Let's just peel that bit down there. Oh. Okay, so let's just pull that nice and straight again. Okay, so we're just going to make sure that it's nice and straight. I'm just going to go over my measurements one more time. Okay, just going to move it over ever slightly this way. Okay, so that is on there nicely. So I've just got my easy press out and it's just heating up now. I've set it at the lowest temperature that it will go, which is 100 degrees Celsius, and all I'm going to do is literally run it over very, very quickly to help the vinyl to stick to the mat. I'm going to put a protective tea towel over the top of my stencil so it doesn't melt it, but I'm going to be really quick to do this. So blink and you will miss it. Okay, so I've just got my tea towel. I'm not even going to use the timer on my easy press. I'm going to just run it over my whole mat. It is warm. Hopefully it has not melted it. Okay, so it's stuck it down quite a bit actually. That looks good. Okay, now I'm going to give it a roll as well, just to make it stick a little bit more. Let's turn off the easy press. Okay, that is stuck really, really well. Quite pleased with how that has worked. Okay, so next up, I'm going to grab the masking tape and I'm going to mask around the edges of the design. This again is just a protective measure, just to stop the paint from going onto the outer edges of the mat. I mean, if you want to decorate the outer edges of your mat, you can certainly do that, but I don't want mine to accidentally get onto there. So I'm hoping that that's going to be enough of a mask there. Let's make sure that all your edges are pushed down really well. I am going to be using acrylic paint here today and some little stippling brushes. I've got my two brushes. I've got this paint. This is just basic acrylic paint. I don't know how it's going to stand up with the use of it as a doormat, but it's a bit of an experiment, and then you know me, I like an experiment. I've just got an old kid's dinner plate that I'm going to use for my paint to go on, and I'm going to start off with the heart. This is a brand new tube of paint, so I need to take off this little silver bit. This is obviously a child-proof thing because I can't do it. Alright, so I'm just going to pop a blob of paint on my plate. And the brush that I'm using is a flat ended brush, because what I want to do is almost stipple onto my mat. So I'm just going to load my brush up nicely. I'm going to start stippling onto my mat. I'm going to use quite a lot of paint because I want it to be nice and bright, and especially when you're going around the edges, just stipple. So just literally dab it. You don't want to brush it because you don't want any paint to leak. And here I've got a bit that I think it might lift on, so I'm just going to be very careful when I do that part. Go quite slow around the edges. Make sure you get a good coverage. Okay. You can use a spray paint for this as well, and again when you're spray painting you would need to make sure that you would really straight down with your spray. So I'm just going to get my black paint now to start the letters, and I've got another brush. I'm going to start off over here on the height. Get a nice press down. So just keep stippling away and make sure you do it nice and straight down with no angle or slant on your brush whatsoever. Remember, you can keep sticking down as you go, and there's no rush. Take your time, make sure that you get every little bit of your mat that's on show covered so that you've got a nice crisp colouring. Okay, so now I've got all my paint put onto my stencil. I'm going to peel it off and just have a quick look at what it's like underneath. Hopefully it looks alright. So I'm just going to carefully lift it from one side, and I'll then see if I've got any bleeding with my paint as well. Oh wow, it looks great. Look at that. Hee hee. That looks fab. Okay, so I'm just going to put this stencil straight into the bin. So there are a few bits around the edges that maybe could do with a little bit more paint, but for the most part it's come out nicely. You can see how wet the paint still is because it's really shiny, but it looks really good. I'm quite pleased with that. So all I'm going to do now is just grab a smaller paintbrush, and this is just a regular paintbrush, it's probably one of my daughter's, and I'm just going to carefully add a bit more paint to the bits where I think it's a little bit light of paint, just to make it a little bit more evenly covered. The red actually looks really thick, so there's only a couple of bits on there that I might do, but to be honest I might not even touch the heart because it looks quite good. It's just more noticeable with the black because it's such a contrast between the colour of the coconut matte to the actual paint itself. So just be careful not to go over your edges, because obviously that would be annoying once you have worked as hard as you have to get the stencil on there so straight. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope it's inspired you to make yourself a lovely doormat for your house, or maybe even treat somebody who's maybe moving house, or just because. So if you have enjoyed this, I'd love to see you again for the next video. Please subscribe, like and comment if you've got any questions, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.